Really want to concentrate on getting a consistent grip every single time, and we're going to talk about the proper grip right now and the mechanics behind it. My grip starts in the draw, which we're going to cover here in a little while, but what I want to find first is a high tang grip. Okay, I want to get this beaver tail, like on this Smith & Wesson M&P here, is really drastic, so your hand can get high up in there and higher up on the height over bore ratio, higher on the barrel. If we could put our hand right here on the back of the slide and shoot it, we would. That would be ultimate recoil control, but we can't. So that's what I like to choose when I'm looking for a gun, is a high grip just like this. But you'll notice I have this gap in here. Now you're going to see lots of different types of grips. You'll see thumbs down grips. That's a revolver grip. We don't need a revolver grip here because this has a tang. Revolvers don't have back straps or tangs like this. Okay, so we need to fill this entire void. That's my priority. This is not filling the void. This is filling the void. This is actually a huge contact portion, this part of your hand, and this has got to really be pressing on that gun. You'll notice that a lot of people will shoot a thumbs up grip or a thumbs out grip. You're minimizing the contact on the gun. So basically what you're doing is you're providing path of least resistance, which is what we don't want, and I'm going to cover that here in a second. So we want to fill that entire void with a thumbs forward grip. So if you put my finger straight out, you're going to see they're kind of at a 45-degree angle down. So that's a good reference tool right there, is to rotate your hand down. Your thumb will be straight and in line with the bore, and then you can curl those fingers underneath. I put a little reference notch in my trigger guard, so when that index trigger finger comes up underneath, it wedges in there. And then you'll see over here that these fingers will rest in these grooves. And that is about 100% grip that I can get. Does anybody know the 60-40 grip? Matt, what do you use under stress? Do you use 60% on the strong or the weapon hand and 40% on the reaction hand? What do you use? Is it 42%, 42.5?
Not sure how to judge the percentage on either side.
Exactly. You don't know. You don't know what you use under stress, but I know that 100% and 100% works for me. So that's what I'm going to stick with. So that's the mechanics right there. Okay. What I'm going to show you guys now is the mechanics of the handgun and how it recoils. I'm going to start off with a weapon hand only grip. Now what I want you guys to do, and you can come into where you can see me a little better if you need to, but watch how the gun recoils, okay? Which way did the gun just recoil? Up and left. Up and left. Because I have resistance on this side and no resistance on this side, correct? All right, now let's try it with the other side. Which way did the gun recoil? Up and to the right. Resistance, no resistance. Now let's get 100% grip, but I'm not going to get a high tang grip. Which way did it recoil? Straight up. Because I have equal tension, equal resistance on each side, but I didn't have that high tang grip. Now I'm going to get 100% high tang grip and watch what the gun does. Which way did the gun recoil? Straight back. So guys, right there are the mechanics of a handgun. That's how the recoil works, and that's why you've got to have 100% maximum contact on the gun. Thumbs down, thumbs up, T-cups, wrist grabs, Hawaii 5-0, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to use, that's fine, but think about the mechanics and see if they justify themselves in your own minds by just watching that demonstration right there.
What we're going to talk about is putting all those together. So I'm going to try to get in the perfect stance, watch my elbows, the mechanics of the gun like Travis had already covered, good trigger control. All right, so the first thing that we're going to work on is accuracy. Start running the gun a little faster. Obviously, we're still talking about a 1.5 inch dot right there, trying to keep a good group. What I'll expect out of you guys is, as we shoot these 3-inch groups, is being able to keep everything inside that 3-inch group. Now I started shooting faster and faster and faster. What we're going to do is we're going to start off. I'll show you exactly what I want you guys to focus on, and then we'll start pressing on from there. All that I'm showing is that even on a small dot, you can pretty much keep everything in there as you start increasing your cadence of fire, pushing yourself to your failure point. Now, let's break this down a little bit further. I said there's 7 fundamentals of shooting, right? That's a lot. That's a lot that we have to actually duplicate under stress. How do I condense that down? How do I simplify it for myself? So the first way that I generally will simplify it is I will take that stance and that grip, and that gets combined into one. Now, sight alignment, sight picture, that's going to be classified in one group as well. So now I've taken 4 separate things and I've just kind of grouped them together. But then I have, of course, trigger control, but we know that trigger control also relates to breathing. I'll throw that in there. Follow through is merely resetting of the trigger, okay? So I'll take that and I'll combine that. So there's my 3 core that I'm going to look at right there. Now, I can lose one of those. I can only lose sight for so long. But I'm going to do a demo where I'm going to close my eyes. I'll have you guys come up here and verify that I'm not cheating. And I'll try to keep the rounds on target. I will try to do that by having a good grip and a good trigger control. And you can only do that for so long. Okay, eventually you got to open up your eyes to shoot. So let me get, let's see, Willie, and let me get Keith. Come on out here, please. All right, I'm going to try to maintain a good grip and a good trigger pull on this particular one. And I'm going to try to lose, I'm going to end up losing my sight. All right, again, just let me know when I'm outside that bubble. It'll probably be within a few rounds. So I'm going to come out, sight in. Okay, as you can see, at some point, I'm starting to be affected, right? Why? I mean, my gun's generally coming back to where the start point was, but I'm now, I can't see where I'm holding my gun. But why am I able to get some of those rounds still inside that circle? Or at least keep that consistent group going in one direction or another? What is it? Grip. It's that grip, it's that upper body mechanics, right? In a good press to the rear. That's what we're looking at. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to exaggerate a really bad trigger control. So I'm going to try to maintain a really good grip. Good sight picture now because I'm going to utilize my eyes. Remember I said you want to try to keep 2. You can afford to lose 1, but you can only lose sight for so long. So now I have regained sight, obviously, and a good grip, but I'm going to exaggerate the trigger control here. All right, so I'm going to punch out. 2 fingers on a trigger. Okay, that's 2 fingers stuck on a trigger. But what did I maintain? Grip and sight picture, right? All right, so let's exaggerate. Which is the one that we haven't covered yet? Screwing up. All right, it's generally a little tough to do. So we'll come up. And I'm putting all 3 to work, right? So now I've had a crappy grip, but I did have a good sight picture, and I did have what? A good trigger control. So when you look at your dots, and you start to diagnose your target, that's what you're kind of asking yourself. How is my sight picture? Obviously you're shooting with your eyes open, right? Common sense. But then the next thing that you're asking yourself is, how is my grip? How is my trigger control? How are all 3 of those things? Because our goal was to have all 3 of those things working for us. So I'm going to go hot again. So I'm trying to put all 3 together. That's how I put all 3 together. I want to use all 3 of those at the exact same time. That's a perfect world, okay? So as you guys are diagnosing yourself over those 7 fundamentals, grab those 7 fundamentals and make those 3. Any questions on that?
Question on stance. When you're in your firing position, where do you generally want to have your weight distributed going into your feet? Do you want it to trying to be pushing to the sides, rolling on the balls, or just center your weight straight down?
Well, let me ask you this. If you were about to run, where generally is most of your weight?
Balls of my feet.
If you're about to fight, generally where is most of your weight if you were to go to a good fighting school?
Balls of my feet.
Okay, so the same thing is employed with the handgun. Outstanding question.
Check.
All right. You guys have any questions? Okay, so here's the drill. What we're going to do is we're going to start this drill off. Concentrate on dot 9. All right, everybody's going to come out here, load and make ready. So we have a few range commands that we do. Load and make ready, or gas them up. Unload, show clear, holster. Range is hot. That's a hot range, don't go forward of the line. Range is cold, cold range, but still don't go forward of the line. And then down range signifies shooters are moving downrange. Any questions with that? All right, so here's the first drill. We're gonna start. You'll load and make ready. Weapon system will already be out. Notice, most importantly, is that as I hold on to this weapon system, I stay in a compressed ready. I will drive out on target. I will not stay down here in this position and bring it up. Anybody know why? What am I generally seeing as I bring the gun up?
Go past the target.
I'll go past the target. I'm focusing on the back of my hand and the rear sight. So what I want to do now is I want to focus more on indexing that front sight, okay? Also, if I do this, what am I focusing on? Or what is the possibility that's going to happen? If I start up here and bring the gun down.
Looking over your rear sight.
Looking over my rear sight, again, that whip effect like you were talking about, it's just in reverse. Now, where is my priority? My priority is in what direction? Is it here, here, or here if nobody's in front of me except the threat?
Right there.
Right there. This is where I want to keep the gun. So if anything happens, I can even fire from this position as I'm pressing out or punching out on target. So that's where my priority is. That's where we want you to keep your muzzle pointed as long as there are no other shooters around you. All right, so here we're in a compressed ready. I'm going to say threat. Take your time. Bring it back. Threat. Punch out. Reset the trigger. Also do a search and assess. Look left, look right. Why are we searching and assessing? Just because it's a cool thing to do? More threats breaks us from that body alarm reaction. So again, I'll punch out, reset the trigger, bring the gun back to the compressed ready, search and assess. Same drill, punch out, reset, bring the weapon system back, search and assess. So what we're looking at specifically is firing one round. One round on the target every time we call it, unless we say 2 rounds. Now let me ask you this, when we talk about follow through and sight picture. I obviously had one sight picture there, fired the round, reset. When you fire one round, how many sight pictures do you have? Those situations, it's gun dependent. And you're also going to have to base this, what I'm about to show you, on whether you can do this 95% of the time. If you guys can, then it's something that you might keep in your inventory. If it's not, and you can't do it 95% of the time, then just stick with one particular technique, more important. Generally what will happen is on these weapon systems, the M&P, and I'm going to show you on the Beretta as well, once you're here in this position and you dump and you start to insert right here, if you get it in and you start to hit on the 90, the slide won't go forward. Okay, any hit on the 90, the slide won't go forward. But on the 45, on this angle right here, the slide will go forward. So what I try to do on this particular gun is incorporate it into one motion so I can drive my hand right into the grip. So that works on this type of weapon system. On the Beretta, same thing. On the 90, this thing generally does not work on the 90 when I hit it. Hit it up forward, I'm back up, okay? Now, let me ask you this. Does that mean that you should do that technique? What if you can use a slide release? What should you use? What should you use? What the gun was designed for. So if you can use a slide release, use it. If you can't use that, what's your next step that you should use, alternative-wise? Power stroking. If you can, 95% of the time, ensure that you can get a good speed reload by doing that on the particular guns that it does apply to, then that's something that you need to consider. That's all. I'm not saying that you have to do it. You just need to think about it. Bottom line is, what works 95% of the time? So a few different methods shown. Let me ask you this. If you had one to pick, what is probably the most effective, most efficient, that shares a lot of commonalities with others that you should probably focus on? Power stroking a gun. All right, 95% of the time, power stroking is your best option. Obviously, with a wheel gun, this particular Smith & Wesson has 7 shots, so you got to take basically 7 rounds and under stress, try to get them in, try to basically get 7 little circles into 7 little circles under stress. And we haven't even started moving yet. Revolvers are great, but we've obviously started excelling to a different level with semi-autos, but nevertheless, there are really good applications for running wheel guns as well, so that's why we cover this. I'm gonna fire 7 shots, and then I'm gonna just break down the mechanics a little slow. You're gonna see, again, there's a lot of similarities to what Travis had showed earlier. Okay, so I'll punch out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Now, here's the key. Under stress, you're gonna get that next one. That next one is represented by a click, come off, bring the gun up into my workspace, dump, bring the gun up high so I can see what's going on, so I can look at the target. If the threat's starting to get up, change or move, I can get back up or change positions, okay?
Now, 2, when you fire 3 rounds, how many sight pictures do you have? Obviously it would be 4. We're always ending on 1 with our follow through, okay? Any questions with that? So all that we're looking at is when we call a command of threat, bust them, gun, punch out, but take your time. Keep all your shots within that 3-inch circle. All right, guys, range is hot.
Range is hot!
All right, load and make ready. Gas them up. Get them up into your workspace. Weapon systems out. Check your stance. Check your grip. Thumbs forward, good aggressive lean forward. You're gonna fire 1 round. 1 round. Take your time. Stand by. Threat.
As I pushed out too, I don't know why I did that.
Decock. That's not decocking, Hot Rod.
Make sure you're resetting that trigger, okay? Feel that, and then actually feel that slack. You're gonna take it up again and go for a follow-up shot as you're scanning that or getting that second sight picture.
See how that is?
Yep.
That's a completely different grip than what you and I just had. So what I want you to do now is put your hand in the same place as mine.
Gotcha.
Stand by. Perfect, right there.
And then really wrap it in there, really tight. And
Stand
feel a
by.
little index point right there. Try to maintain that. Now squeeze that real hard.
All right, holster up. All right, very nice overall. We have a few shots out, that's okay. Working on those fundamentals. Couple things. We want to try to get our hands as high up on that gun as possible. You have bigger hands than me, Keith, so you technically should be able to mitigate that Beretta better than me. What's happening is you're getting a lower grip on the gun, or every time you fire, your grip changes. So now what you have is an inconsistency every time you pull that trigger. So we got to work a little bit more on getting your thumbs, as I showed you, as high up on the gun as possible.
Notice when I came by later and corrected you again, not even knowing Chris was there, but you can see your hand was low again. So we want to concentrate on a consistency from here. So every time you punch out, don't think about getting this hit until it's time to get that hit. Okay, think about everything else first. Okay, grip looks good. Everything's got to go in order deliberately, and that's what we want, because get that consistency, that primacy down first.
All right, we just got done working accuracy, doing a 1-shot drill. Now we're going to start 2-shot. For guys running double singles, this is where you're going to start experiencing 2 different trigger pulls. Obviously, that first one's double action, slide cycles back, leaving that hammer to the rear. Next one is obviously single action. Still remember those core principles, and they transfer over to everybody. Take that slack out of the trigger, get it to that gnat's ass, razor's edge, slow press to the rear, reset, follow through, work those fundamentals. Now we're going to start working 2 shots and 3 shots. So you still have plenty of time to get your hits on that dot. All right? So Travis is going to call it. Don't feel rushed on having to drive that gun out. Bring the gun back. Search and assess. Good. If you can speed up, then start doing that, okay? Then we're gonna probably transition once we see that you guys are doing good recoil management on a weapon system. The accuracy is still there, so we're having a good press of the trigger. Then what we're gonna start doing is running numbers, okay? Find a number, properly engage it, okay? So here's what this drill is gonna look like. I'll let Travis call the number.
Hey!
Line it up. Range is hot. All right, take your time. 2 rounds, 2 rounds. Dot number 9, 2 rounds. Stand by. Gun. Get your hits. You have plenty of time.
Stand by. Gun.
Let me have your hands. Relax your hand for a second. hitchhike with this thumb, right? So I'm gonna hitchhike, wrap it right there. Now let me have your other hand. I'm gonna come up underneath and swap it around here. Now take this and place those freaking big hands right there. That's how I want you to shoot.
Sight alignment, sight picture, press to the rear, squeeze, boom, follow through, reset.
3 rounds, dot 10.
And you're getting a little bit of path of least resistance here. You need to close that gap up, but your trigger's causing that, okay? So I want you to isolate that thing. Give me your trigger finger. Raise your hand up, okay?
Worry about.
You feel that pain?
Yes, sir.
Put that pain on the trigger.
See what's happening to this hand and see what's happening to the grip.
Okay.
All right, so when the tip of your finger doesn't touch aggressiveness anymore, then you need to just choke back up on your hand. 2, 7, 14, gun! 15, 1, 5, 4, gun! 2, 3, 2, 3, gun!
All right, the command is going to sound something like this.
Unload, show clear, holster up when you're done.
First thing I'm going to do is eject the magazine, obviously. Next thing I'm going to do is get that same consistent power stroke motion, grabbing the rear of the frame, or the slide, excuse me. You're going to then rack out and watch the round hit the deck, and then I like to check 3 places. The chamber, looking in the top for the magazine, and then obviously in the bottom as well, just because it's value added. All right, you're being extra safe. We'll then, once your gun is verified from a buddy or an instructor that it's clear and safe, we'll then send the slide home. The hammer will go down. You'll aim in to verify one last, again, value-added thing there, that there's no round in the chamber. Then you will holster the gun. And that's good practice if you're out there by yourself, you're out there at a range and there's a bunch of other people, because how many times have you gone to a shooting range and you'll see some guys walk back from the line, they'll be back underneath the shaded areas, and they'll start unloading their guns facing uprange. It happens a lot. So good practice is, if you're in a group of people, like right now, so we're going to do it together. We're not going to just let people go to the winds, because that's when accidents start to happen, especially at advanced levels where you get complacent. All right, next thing we're going to cover, guys, is a draw. I've seen things from a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You guys ever seen that? Okay, that's an institutional inertia thing like I talked about earlier. So what we want to do is just kind of get rid of all the steps and smooth it down, kind of like what Chris was talking about earlier with those core fundamentals, kind of breaking them in so it's easier to learn. And because I'll see guys that are 15, that guy says, oh, I got 30 years experience, and he looks really good, but he's like this. Okay, do you see the difference there between that and that? We want to just have a nice even flow and kind of connect the dots. And basically what I like to do is break it down into, number 1 is right here. This is my most critical step because I'm getting my grip. Okay, this is where the grip starts. We all know that by now. So I'm looking right there, and this is a dry practice thing for me. What I'll do is right there, because I just landed on a perfect grip for me, and I'm happy with that, and then I'll do it again. You see how I'm flinching every time? It's a flinch muscle body alarm response, and we're going to talk more about the mindset and how the body reacts under stress, but what we want to have is that flinch movement, okay? And that's what I'll dry practice. I'll do that 25, 50 times until I get tired of it, and then I'll go to the next step, which is right here. This is the next critical point, getting the master grip, that 100 and 100 that I talked about earlier, okay? We want to be able to get that solid before we move on to step 3, which is obviously doing everything we need to do fundamentally and then firing the gun down range. So I'm pretty much breaking it down into 3 steps that are just a fluid motion. Boom, and there. So what we're going to do is, as we're starting to do the draw, we want you guys to concentrate here, because right now mentally I'm thinking about, is this right? Does this feel right? If it does not, I will stop, because again, that repetition is about to be wasted anyways. So for training purposes, for dry practice purposes, we want to get it right. We're going to concentrate right here. Boom, it feels good. Feels good. And I'm looking down if I need to. This is the time we take again to look down to make sure it's correct. And then drive out. Press, press. Going back and reverse the exact same way. Now, we talked to you guys a little bit about fishing and bowling earlier. Okay, this is fishing. Okay? And this is bowling. Now, what's the problem with that? What's the problem with fishing? When do I acquire my sights? Very last second, right? Bowling, when do I acquire my sights? very last second. But here, I've got that laser beam on the target, and there's that laser beam coming out of the bore. And I know they're matching up, and I can see right here my sight's coming into play, and they know where to stop. Here, they don't know where, because then you'll find an overcompensation of metal mass, that mechanical sway that we talked about a little earlier. So we want to minimize that sway by just driving out. And with that symmetric drive, that's going to allow you to shoot more instinctively when we get into that intuitive slash instinctive shooting process a little later. Okay, but right now we're going to start off a little slow. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're just going to do some drills. You guys got any questions? All right, let's line it up. We'll run some draw practice. Shooters, load and make ready.
2 rounds. 2 rounds from the draw. 2 rounds from the draw. Shooters, stand by. Bust them. Don't forget to search and assess. Take your time, get your hits. Shooters, stand by. Holster up.
Get that grip on the 1 and 2.
Threat. There you go, search and assess. Look around. Once you're done, holster up. Shooters, stand by. Gun. Reload. Finish it, finish it, finish it. Good job, Scott. Search and assess. Remember this simple analogy. Quick to the gun, because that's what you're naturally going to do under stress. Bust them. So it's quick to the gun, sure of your grip. Quick to the threat, sure of your shot. Remember, you have presentation time and set time. Presentation time is the time it takes for you to get your gun out of the holster. That draw time technically will be the same no matter what distance you're at.
Don't fish on me. You're still getting a little fish at the end, okay?
Set time is the time it takes for you to actually pull that trigger. Size of your target, distance to the target is going to make your set time actually change. So presentation time remains the same. Set time is what's changing. Hey guys, we just moved to a bigger range. We should be able to do a lot more dynamic stuff now, given a little bit more distance and a little bit more width at a range.
We also have a new shooter actually going to be running a wheel gun today, and somebody that's near and dear to us all here, Mr. Ernie Costa, Chris Costa's father.
Well, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Hope we have a good day.
35 years I've been waiting for this exact moment for payback. 35 years. You're in my world now.
I'm ready for it.
All right, let's talk about tactical reloads here next. When do we want to do a tactical reload?
Time and opportunity present itself.
Time and opportunity. That's a good answer. It should be as fast as a speed reload, because you're taking the gun pretty much out of battery for a quick second, meaning that the weapon's in the workspace. It's not intended to shoot right away. It's not in the ready position. So we want to make sure that that weapon system is back up and ready to get back in the fight as soon as possible. So I like to treat my tactical reloads just like a speed reload. All right, I'll go ahead and demo it real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it as we go through it. I'm going to come in, I'm going to search and assess. All right. Now, where do you think I'm going to grab? I want to keep this critical reload magazine always there, because 5 minutes from now I may go to a combat reload. I may go to slide lock. So I want to keep that there, because the last thing I want to do is grab it and it's not there and then have to have an excessive waist movement. Yeah, I've got another one back here, but to me, that 3 inches is excessive waist movement under a time is left situation. We agree with that? Check. So, hey, it's value added. We're going to go for that first one. So when I make the decision, I'll come back in here, I'll search and assess. Okay, I just fired some shots. I got a long way to go today. Grab, boom, bring it right up to the gun. Now what I'm going to do is, as you can see, the way I index the mag, just like I normally would for a speed reload, I'm going to index it exactly the same, but what I like to do is I like to break this thumb off, okay? And then what I'll do is I'll just eject this mag, and then the index finger will come off and pinch that mag, okay? Now, the gun and the mag's moving over, inserting in one firm seat, okay? Even a solid seat. Some of these mags, when you pack them full, sometimes it'll hit the tops and it'll bounce back down, and you don't want to get a failure to feed next time go around. So again, index comes out, open the pinch, grab it, move it over, insert it one firm time. So here's what it's going to look like. Now notice when I put the magazine back, I did take a quick second and look. Okay, now I could sit here and try to find it and fidget all day long for 3, 4, 5 seconds, or I could take a half second, put it back, and I'm done, and now I've got those extra 3 or 4 or 5 seconds to search battle space, move to the next position, continue to be that much more efficient. Okay, so just think about the efficiencies and be consistent and be deliberate. When you make a decision to do it, grab, boom, bring it up. Oh yeah, this is what I'm doing, pinch grip, move it over. Now what am I doing with this other mag? Oh yeah, identify, place it back in. Get your hands back on the gun, ready for the fight again. All right. All right, any questions on tack reloads? Okay, we got a different wheel gun out here, different type of weapon system. Dad, can I have you come on out? We're going to talk about the wheel gun and how to do a tack reload on a wheel gun, because a lot of people don't think there really is one or may not know, so we're going to go ahead and discuss that here. Now I've got an 8-shot or 7-shot Smith & Wesson 357 Magnum here. What I did is I put a couple of extra rounds in my weapon hand pocket. This is how I typically like to load, because when I break that cylinder out, I will then hold the gun in my reaction hand, because now my weapon hand needs to be free, get the rounds, easily insert them. So I'm going to go through that here and talk about that for a second. Now, I'm going to go ahead and fire a couple shots, and then I'll simulate doing the tack reload. So all right, when I'm done firing my 3 rounds on my wheel gun, I'm going to come back into my high compress ready. I'm going to search and assess. At this point, I make a command decision to do a tactical reload. So what I'm going to do at this point is break the breech open. Now, you'll find a lot of competitive shooters will break that breech open. They'll bring it down because it's in line with their belt and where their rounds or normally their speed reloads are going to be, and they're going to be grabbing, dropping in, because gravity does help here with a revolver. Then they're going to come up and back on target. Now, what's the problem with me coming down here like this? Is this my problem? No, that's my problem right there. So now, if you are a competitive shooter with a wheel gun, and I do like to do a little wheel gun action sometimes, I've got to make sure I have consistency when I'm doing reloads. So instead of coming down here, I'm just going to break it here and make sure I'm not dumping them all out, because sometimes it'll happen if you got a really clean gun especially. Keep them here and load it up in your workspace. Okay? So going into the tactical reload, when I make a decision, I come back high compress ready, I will break out the cylinder, and now I've got 3 empty casings in there from what I just shot, so I'm going to take in my first priority is to throw those out. Get in my pocket, continue to search and assess. If a threat came out right now, I just close that cylinder up and continue to fight. I'm going to take the rounds out, put them in as fast as I can, smooth as I can, get the gun back into the high compress ready, now I'm ready to go again. All right? And that's probably going to be the most efficient way you can get that. Just keep in mind, it's natural to want to come down because gravity says so, but you're going to have to work that into your consistency. All right, Dad, thank you. Any questions on the wheel gun? You guys ready to try that out? Let's come on up and try it out. Get online. Load 'em back ready.
From the holster, draw your gun, get your hits. Give me 2 rounds on the target. Search and assess. Do your tack reload, fire 2 more. When you are done, holster up. Done!
Boom, make a decision, go. Be deliberate, be quick.
Hold, now look at your gun. Okay, so what we do is, I want you to put that back in the gun. Bring our new source of ammo up to the gun. Now swap it from there. Outstanding. So the downtime on the gun's very, very minimal. Threat!
Search and assess. Nobody do a tack reload yet. Now do tack reload. Take your time, guys, take your time.
When you do that tack reload, right, you've got this in, you end up having like a weird grip on this thing. So you can't get it into your pouch like that. So the first thing that I'm generally doing is I'll bring the mag in, drive it off my chest, but roll in the index finger so that I can get it right back into my pouch. That'll help you.
Let's do it one more time, guys, one more time.
Boom! There you go. See how you just fixed it? All right, cease fire, guys. Range is cold. Remember that everything, once this gun has a problem, some form of problem, everything happens within your workspace. You see that we come back to the compressed ready. You see that the tack reload takes place in our workspace. Our workspace is this magical 16-inch bubble that hovers around us, okay? Whether it be a malfunction or a speed reload or any type of problem that you end up having with the weapon system. What we're looking at is you ran dry. So there's obviously a huge sense of urgency to get rounds into the gun as fast as possible. Now, couple things. Generally, based on what manufacturers do when they make these guns, you are to use the slide release, okay, to put the slide back in the battery. There's also power stroking the weapon system, okay? Now, why would you want to possibly power stroke the gun versus use the slide stop?
Momentum.
Okay, that's a little bit of controversy over people saying that as you power stroke the gun, you're actually increasing the power, therefore increasing the chances of that round seating in the chamber. But in reality, what's happening is as you pull back, what have you disengaged? What's locking the slide into position? So in reality, you're not getting any more speed. But now let's look at a lot of the body mechanics that we've covered in the past couple days. How is our admin reload? When we came out here and we admin reload, what do we do with the gun? We power stroke it, right? So look, we haven't gotten into malfunctions, but what you're going to see when you start working malfunctions is when we clear a stovepipe, our hand moves in the same position as what? Power stroking. When you have to lock slide to the rear on a double feed, what motion do you do? Come up over the top, lock slide to the rear, okay? So what you're starting to see is we're building in consistency. Now some shooters will slingshot. So they will come up and just grab the rear cock serrations and slingshot. Problem is, if you're bloody or sweaty or it's really hot or you're wet, then you're going to possibly slip off those cock serrations and not get a good stroke on the gun. So what you're trying to do is come up over the top, power stroke that gun, and then get your hand right back up on there. Now, I will tell you this. Again, it's going to be gun and manufacturer specific because some guns I am able to actually do what textbook says you're supposed to do, which is use a slide release. The bottom line here is you have to pick the technique that works for you 95% of the time, and then that's what you should do. So I can tell you generally, some guns that I run, I can't release that under stress because remember, this is a small little button right here. All right, and under stress, when your heart beats at about 175, we go into what? Fine, complex, or gross motor skill. Gross, we start going caveman, right? Big things, big body parts. Remember also, I'm slick. I don't have gloved hands on. You start running gloves, you also got to base the technique on how do you perform if that's how you operate. For some of you guys that are in the military and you run gloves, then if your gloves get in the way or impede that, or you are sitting here fumbling, instead of getting that gun back in the battery and back into the fight, then that's what starts to determine your 95% of success. Okay, so that's probably a couple of the most important things. What we generally will stay away from, though, is the slingshot method because the power stroke translates over to a lot of other things that we do with the gun in our workspace. Now, couple things. When the gun is out here and it goes to slide lock, all right, one of the things that I need to do, that some people need to do, is I have to start getting my thumb to the mag release button. Okay, that's one of the first steps. Reaction hand should always immediately start to index more ammunition. So we're trying to access more ammunition quicker. That is very important as well. So first movement is breaking the grip slightly. That's what I have to do. But for those that are running big hands, do you have to break the grip if your thumb can push the button? Should you break the grip? No, then you don't need to, so don't add in another step is my point. For me, my thumb won't reach unless I slightly break my grip. Once I break my grip, obviously this hand has come down, sweep into the body line, and that's another key feature right there. Once you're here, this hand comes in. My thumb hits the center portion of my body. So from here, my thumb hits the center portion of my body and starts to begin the sweep. I index this magazine. I come out, start here, sweep to the next magazine, and it's in. Obviously, it's extremely important, like Travis has mentioned before, consistency. So I keep my mags in the same place. Now, some people may notice that I ride my mag forward, but I still do that concealed. Okay, so I stay consistent all the way throughout. Now, whether you're shooting some types of competitions, they won't let you because you have to be behind. That's fine, but that's not where I'm keeping my gear. I'm keeping it where I can reload the fastest. So we're talking about what the reaction hand does. It's up on the gun, it index, come in, thumb hits the center line of your body, starts to sweep, drives this thing in. You also need to get a very good purchase on your magazine. That's extremely important as well, which means that my index finger is running along the magazine like this. Also, the magazine is seated deep into my hand. So when I drive this thing in with one motion, I want to seat it in one motion. Okay, just like Travis said earlier, we don't want to just tap, tap, and then get our gun into the fight. One motion, the mag goes in, put it into battery, get those rounds off. Okay, now, some people will have a hard time breaking a grip. They won't feel comfortable right here. Remember, once you break a grip, you got to re-grip the gun before you get this mag in it. Because if you have a very light grip on the gun, you're driving this thing in at how fast? 200 miles an hour. We drive at 200 miles an hour under stress. We're grabbing gear at 200 miles an hour under stress. But what portion do I have to pay attention and slow down at? Right here. Okay, so quick to the magazine. Once you get it, quick to the gun, but be sure that it's seated, and then get it in and get it back up into the fight. Also, another note to add. This is generally where, if you don't have a good grip established, most people right after they take this hand off the gun, they get back into just grabbing onto it. I call it taking what you can get. And you never know how long you're going to be in that sustained fight for, so you want to be able to get those rounds in the gun, establish a good grip, because if you have to do a non-standard response, basically running somebody to the ground, you better have a good grip on that gun, or you're going to have a lot of flyers downrange, which those flyers are liabilities, lawsuits, or even worse for possible military as well. So I'm going to fire a series of rounds, speed reload the gun, get it back up into the fight. Go to slide lock, break my grip, dump the magazine, insert, everything is done into my workspace, my hand comes up, reach back, establish a grip, search and assess. Okay, now I'm going to use a slide stop, or slide release. Dump, insert, slide release. Easy to do static, a little bit tougher to do under stress. All right, one of the other things that you want to take a look at and understand is that when my weapon system is here and I break it into my workspace, some people wonder how high actually I'm bringing the gun. I'm looking over the muzzle. I'm looking over the muzzle, but my eyes are on this plane. They shift down so that I can actually insert that magazine and get the gun back up into the fight. Sometimes people will be really dramatic bringing the gun here so that they can index, and ergonomically, all that we've done is taken the straight up and down complication like this and turned it into a horizontal complication, meaning it's not flowing as fluid as it could be based on the way body mechanics are getting the gun into the fight. So again, once I'm here, I bring the gun into my workspace. You can utilize a forearm right here to collapse into your body. That'll give you a consistent reference point. My eyes look down into the mag well, insert, re-grip, and punch out. All right, so I'm going to run it like this. Some weapon systems. This is kind of one of those things